The following is a paid political announcement.
Lifelong Democrat Diana Florence served for 25 years as a Manhattan prosecutor under DA Robert Morgenthau. She put criminals away, stood up for victims, and protected our streets. Now, Diana is challenging failed Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg as an independent because it's time for a DA who fights for our families, not criminals. That's why Diana has won the support of organized labor like the steam fitters, plumbers, and ironworkers, everyday New Yorkers who want a DA they can trust. Manhattan needs a DA who will do the job, prosecute crime. That's Diana Florence. Under Alvin Bragg, crime is up and prosecutions are down. Bragg doesn't prosecute crime. He plays partisan politics. Bragg failed to protect women and failed to protect workers. As a prosecutor, Diana Florence won groundbreaking convictions, fighting against corruption, domestic violence, wage theft, and daily working conditions. She's always been a partner of unions, community groups, and to cops like us. For Manhattan District Attorney, vote for Diana Florence. Diana4DA.com. Paid for by Diana for Manhattan DA.
The Roger Stone Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Roger Stone Show. So, Michael McMahon was a distinguished, decorated New York City Police Department sergeant who served New Yorkers with real honor during some of the most dangerous years of crime in America's largest city. After retiring from the police department, he performed honest work as a licensed private investigator. Today, Michael McMahon stands convicted of working for a foreign power along with two other Chinese nationals, a conviction for which there is no evidence whatsoever. You see, Michael McMahon's real crime was investigating on behalf of a client and bumping into China's vicious Communist Party operation in the United States, Operation Fox Hunt. You see, the Chinese launched a global campaign in 2014 to pursue fugitives who had been accused of corruption in China, but that was really a cover. According to the U.S. Department of Justice and other Western governments, the operation targeted political dissidents, critics of the Communist Party, and even innocent Chinese who were living abroad. Michael McMahon, as a private investigator, learned this. That's why he had to be silenced. In truth, he performed lawful investigative work that private investigators across America perform every single day. But the Department of Justice twisted these routine tasks into a theatrical display of espionage and conspiracy. He was ultimately convicted of a failure to file a Foreign Agents Registration Act registration when, in fact, there's no evidence of his ever being paid by any foreign power. He was framed the same way they framed me in the Russian collusion hoax. They smeared him as if he were an enemy of the state. They railroaded him into a false conviction. They sent Michael McMahon to prison while the true traitors of our republic walked free. At the center of this fight is an innocent man's efforts to win back his rights. His wife, Martha Byrne, has been clearly been a great source of courage and has spoken out very strongly on behalf of her husband and this outrageous injustice. She's written a terrific book. It's called In the Interest of Justice, which exposes the corruption and cruelty of this system that chews up innocent men like Michael McMahon and, well, me. At the same time, we are protecting the guilty. I really urge you to check out that particular book. It does a great job of laying out the travesty of this man's plight. It's amazing to me, the hypocrisy that comes out of Washington, where the system silences an honest man who's done nothing wrong because he's exposing the epic infiltration of the Communist Chinese and their capabilities in this country. He gets punished as if he were a foreign agent, when the real enemies of America remain shielded and protected. We learned last week that the CIA had investigated and concluded that Joe Biden and his son had made millions in Ukraine, and that Biden had threatened Ukrainian president with withholding $1 billion unless they fired the prosecutor then investigating Burisma and his son Hunter. Joe famously bragged about this because he's a moron, but that was completely illegal. No, the prosecutor in question was not corrupt, but he was getting into Joe Biden's millions. Why hasn't Joe Biden and his son, why have they not been prosecuted beyond the slap on the wrist that Hunter Biden got? Joe Biden has no immunity from his period as vice president when a lot of his largest stealing went on. Here's a guy who said in the debates, no one in my family ever made a penny from any foreign government. That has been disproven completely by the House Republican Oversight Committee. And then you have Hunter Biden himself, the laptop, which you can still get by going to MarcoPolo.org. That's MarcoPolo.org, which is a great not-for-profit organization that has published Hunter Biden's shocking laptop contents. They do use a filter on the more graphic and pornographic parts of it, but you can order that to download online by going to MarcoPolo.org, or you can or they will mail you one. It's fascinating reading. But you ask yourself, why have they gone unpunished? The Democrats now claim that Donald Trump is weaponizing the criminal justice system to attack his political enemies, and to threaten free speech. An exact description of exactly what they did for the last 12 years. They think the American people have no amnesia. Donald Trump's efforts are all about justice and accountability, not revenge and retaliation. This is their new watchword. Trump is just trying to punish his enemies. Let's be very clear. Barack Obama, Joe Biden, James Comey, the FBI director, John Brennan, the CIA director, the director of national intelligence, General James Clapper, Andrew McCabe, acting attorney general Rod Rosenstein, around the bend, former FBI director Robert Mueller, Susan Rice, the national security advisor, Andrew Weissman, the epically corrupt federal prosecutor who was the de facto head of the Mueller witch hunt, Norm Eisen, who plotted with others a completely illegal and illicit effort in which they abused power and used the full authority of the U.S. government to assert that Donald Trump had been elected with the assistance of Russian assistance, which was false. And it was a multi-pronged effort to try to take down the duly elected president. They could not get over the shock of 2016, and they tried to take him out in 2 impeachments, both of them equally bogus. But we now know the second impeachment, where they basically impeached him for asking the Ukrainians to look into Joe Biden's shady activities. Well, that was not an offensive move. That was a defensive move, the so-called Ukrainian impeachment, cooked up by Adam Schiff and others on his staff from whistleblowers that, they invented. That was a fraud. These are people who use both the Steele dossier and the false claim that the Russians had hacked the Democrat National Committee, which they didn't, as the rationale for illegal warrants, FISA warrants, to actually spy on President Donald Trump, just as they more recently spied on 8 Republican senators, which 18 Republican senators have now written a letter protesting. So the extra legal efforts they went to get Donald Trump, and they're putting Michael McMahon in jail. I mean, Jack Smith actually got a federal judge to order Donald Trump's attorney to testify against him and to turn over all of their work documents in violation of the Sixth Amendment in their famous documents case. That's unheard of in America. That's a violation of the Sixth Amendment. In New York State, they extended the law temporarily to extend the statute of limitations under which a person can file a sexual assault civil suit in order to accommodate E. Jean Carroll. How's that for extra legal? Little did they know that they would end up snaring Andrew Cuomo and Mayor Eric Adams in similar sexual assault or sexual harassment lawsuits. So these people have committed high treason, a seditious conspiracy that begins on July 17th, 2017, in an Oval Office meeting with Obama himself in the chair. His friend John Brennan has served him up the phony Steele dossier, which has no credibility and which they know is a fraud, as part of the president's intelligence assessment report. They try to bury it in the footnotes for the future, but it is clearly the basis on which they get the warrants from FISA. They lie to the FISA warrant and say they have probable cause to indicate that Donald Trump has been involved with the Russians in this election, which is completely and totally false. Invented. They have no proof whatsoever that the Democrat National Committee was the target of an online hack. In fact, all the forensic evidence by Bill Binney, the most noted counterintelligence IT guy in CIA history, is that whatever was stolen from the DNC was downloaded to hard drives and taken out the back door in some kind of portable device. Did somebody say Seth Rich? So the idea that Trump is now weaponizing the criminal justice system to get his enemies is laughable, as is the threat of people like Hakeem Jeffries, who tells us that we better be careful because when they come back to power, they're going to go after anybody supported Donald Trump or his policies, as if we don't remember that we already did that, Hakeem. You already did that. You tried it on me, you tried it on General Flynn, you tried it on Donald Trump. No, what's happening now is people who committed egregious crimes in their efforts to try to get Donald Trump and remove him from office have now been fully exposed, and they will go through a court of law and a fair trial, and they need to be held to account for these crimes. This isn't weaponization. This isn't a political hit list. This isn't the people Donald Trump doesn't like. These are the people who performed provable, convictable crimes. Yes, I do think justice is coming. Yes, that justice is too slow for my tastes. Coming up on the Roger Stone Show, I hope if we're a big fan of hee-haw, or you like country and western music, or you like America's country and western traditions, or you believe in traditional values and you like rural folks and straight talk, Congressman Tim Burchett from Tennessee is going to be with us next. You want to hang in for this. We'll be right back.
The Roger Stone Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. Roger Stone Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the Roger Stone Show. So, honest cops like Michael McMahon, they get framed while the real criminals, the real traitors to this country, continue to walk free. Hopefully we've seen the beginning of the end of that. On Thursday, of course, far-left New York State Attorney General Letitia James, who campaigned for that office saying she would get Donald Trump long before she had any evidence of a crime by him, was indicted herself by a federal grand jury in the Eastern District of Virginia, specifically on charges of bank fraud and mortgage fraud, as well as making false statements to a financial institution. The Wall Street Journal reports that the indictment brought by interim U.S. Attorney Lindsay Halligan, who took that office after Donald Trump essentially fired the previous U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia, Eric Siebert. Siebert never disclosed the fact that his father-in-law, his wife's father, was the godfather to former FBI Director James Comey's daughter, and therefore Siebert was trying to cook the case so that Comey would not be indicted. His prosecutors prepared a 51-page memo outlining why the FBI director should, although he clearly lied to Congress under oath, should not be charged with that crime. The president went with the law rather than their interpretation. Dropped Halligan in there. She was, by the way, a partner in a major law firm. She is constantly described as an insurance lawyer, as if she's some kind of ambulance chaser, but that's completely unfair. I'm told that she did not get robust assistance from the U.S. Department of Justice in this prosecution, but she went before the grand jury. She won these charges. She's expected to file superseding charges. At least that's what I hear. So one woman doing the right thing can make a difference. She evidently did not clear this with Attorney General Pam Bondi or Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, simply moving to file the charges, which of course have rocked the political world. Prior to that, there had been an effort to derail this indictment when mid-level bureaucrats inside the Eastern District of Virginia U.S. Attorney's Office leaked the fact that the head of the appropriate division had decided to recommend against prosecution. A woman named Yusi had recommended against prosecution, feeling there was not sufficient probable cause. Now, the leaking of any conclusions or any information regarding an ongoing investigation in which no decisions yet been made about charging is in itself a felony. So people broke the law to try to make sure that James Comey would not be prosecuted, to make sure that Letitia James would not be prosecuted. And they utterly failed. Lindsay Halligan is a one-woman Justice League. She's also, if you've seen her, she's a smoke show. She's one smart, very attractive, well-spoken lady. And I think she's made history here all by herself. I'm told that the FBI did assist her, but beyond that, the level of cooperation from her own office was zero. She's today's hero. I'm Roger Stone. You're listening to The Roger Stone Show. I'll be back with some country wisdom from the roots of America. Congressman Tim Burchett is going to join us. You'll love it.
The Roger Stone Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Roger Stone Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
The man joining us now, Congressman Tim Burchett from East Tennessee. Well, he's different than most people in political life. You see, he just tells you exactly what he thinks. He, to me, seems to be that rare person who entered public service not to get rich, but to serve his fellow citizens. He was a mayor. And when you're a mayor, that means that if there's a pothole down at the end of the street, the folks on that street are going to find you. That's the government closest to the people. And this is a place where Tim Burchett distinguished himself for his shrewd use of tax dollars, his opposition to tax increases, to being tough on spending, but also helping to promote jobs. He went to the state legislature. That didn't turn him into a politician either. And now he's in the U.S. House. He is, I'm happy to say, on the House Oversight Committee, and he is the Committee on Oversight and Accountability, pardon me. He is a solid conservative. He's also a truth teller. He's went to Washington not to be somebody, but to do something, and God bless him within the Republican caucus, where not everybody is, shall we say, as stalwart as Tim and I. He's out there fighting for us every day. Congressman Tim Burchett, welcome to the Roger Stone Show.
Thank you, Mr. Stone, and I'll try to live up to that very wonderful introduction. As always, it is a complete honor to be on the show with you. When I got elected to politics, I never realized I would become friends and acquaintances with people like yourself. So it's quite an honor. Thank you, sir.
Well, we are always very proud to have you. Give me your quick take on the government shutdown and how you think this is playing out. What do the American people need to know, and are they getting it?
Well, I don't think they really are. I think the best friend the Democrats have right now is Republican messaging. It's a very simple message. We are shut down because Chuck Schumer sees his far-left base that he's never really embraced as much as we'd like to think. He's probably not a communist, but he's turning that way just to stay in office because he sees in his rearview mirror Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and political pundits and strategists and everybody else in the world will tell you if she gets in a race against him, he's toast.
True.
He's history.
True.
And Schumer sees one of his bases, a great city that's being destroyed right now, is New York City, where you have a Marxist, anti-Semitic individual who's unapologetic about that, is probably going to be the next mayor. And that's going to be the base of the Democrat Party, if not in the great state of New York as it is in the whole country. So he's shifting because he wants to stay in power, and he shut the government down. The big lie is that this is owned by Donald J. Trump and the Republicans. The Republicans have voted, at least in the Senate, 5 times. We passed an open government in the House, a clean, what we call a CR. I don't like CRs. It's called a continued resolution. We need to pass a real budget, but we can't right now. And
so basically, a CR is to keep the government functioning at its current level of spend, unless the CR specifically increases spending. We're prepared to go forward, keep the government open, but not spend any more money, and so we can knock out a budget. But the Democrats, they want big spending now, and they specifically, yes, they do want to finance health care for people who are here illegally, when we have Americans who need help first. So I think this is Schumer's shutdown. I think they're wearing it. I do think people understand we're ready to move forward, but we're not going to be blackmailed into it. And Chuck is being held, you're absolutely right, hostage by his party's crazy left wing, because Bernie and AOC, the bartender who likes to tell other people that they're stupid, and Jasmine Crockett, this and Zoran Mamdani, this is the face of the new Democratic primary. This is where the primary voting base is. They will produce the nominees for this party at the state and federal level going forward, which means corporate Democrats like Chuck Schumer, who everybody knows you could buy for $25. I mean, Chuck is very responsive to his big donors. He came out of the New York Assembly. Then he was a congressman in the Senate. He's a wheeler dealer. He's in desperate trouble. People should recognize AOC, to win her seat, she beat Joe Crowley, who's a veteran congressman, chairman of the Queens County Democratic machine, and she still beat him in the primary. This is where the center of gravity is in their party today. So I agree with that. One issue that really bothers voters right, left, and center, I don't care whether you're Republican, Democrat, or independent, is the vast wealth that is accumulated by these Washington politicians. My own Congressman Jared Moskowitz has been reported, based on what I call insider trading, has made millions of dollars. The woman running for governor in New Jersey, Mikey Sherrill, she tripled her net worth, and she made a $7 million gain, based on information she appears to have gotten from the House Armed Services Committee where she serves. She, of course, running for governor in a race that Republicans now may actually be able to win. Jack Ciattarelli coming on strong in the close, and certainly within a distance of being able to close a small gap. So don't you think, I mean, why does the Congress, I guess this is an obvious answer, but can you explain some of the, why don't they do not just end congressional insider trading? I mean, these are some of the most unethical things I've ever seen. These congressional members are gaming the system, stock trading to enrich themselves. We know about Nancy Pelosi. She's the poster child for it. But, Tim, why don't they stop this?
Nancy Pelosi in the top 10, actually, sir, is number 11.
Wow.
And you can go on a website, Unusual Whales. The last time I saw the listing of it, that's where she was. Yeah, it's because of greed. If you're making 500-600% return on investments, you don't need to be working in Congress. Dadgum, you need to be working on Wall Street. You're beating all of them, all your big time investors. And all you gotta do is join Congress. It's interesting. I make skateboards. It's kind of a hobby, and it's, as I like to tell people, it's cheaper than a psychiatrist. It's good therapy for me out in my barn.
Plus, I can tell you, by the way, Tim, I can tell you, Tulsi Gabbard loved her skateboard. Loved it.
Yes, sir. She did. She was, and she's a wonderful human being. But I gave her that thing, and then people are calling me all over the country saying, "Man, will you make me a skateboard? I'll buy it from you." Well, I'm trying to do the right thing. I'm from Tennessee, so I go see the ethics people. I take my chief of staff with me, and she's there. She's very intelligent, bright young lady, and so basically now, Mr. Stone, I have to develop a business plan. I got to pay for that, and then I have to submit to them, and I have to get lawyers involved with this. But if you want to do insider trading, just become a member of Congress. But dadgum, you want to make skateboards, you better hire you a dadgum lawyer. And that's ridiculous. That is so ridiculous. We need just total disclosure of what you're doing. And they say, they've got all these limitations, and all they do is allow for the people who can afford an attorney that go to Congress to do that. And the insider trading is so obvious. And I want to give you one quick example. When Joe Biden, I don't think we should be in war in Ukraine, but that's for another argument. But when Joe Biden gave our missile defense system to Ukraine, we had to resupply or retool and our missile defense system. We had to get a brand new one. So it was a multi-billion with a B, $billion contract with our missile defense suppliers. And guess who owns stock in those missile defense companies? But members of both parties. And that some of them apparently had bought it within 2 weeks of Joe Biden making that public announcement. So these committees that had that pre-knowledge, and you described one of them, and when we were talking about it, one of the candidates running for governor in our country, and it's just a complete abuse of power. It's so obvious, and it's arrogance beyond belief, and it's just runs that old Bible verse, people professing themselves to be wise became fools because they think they're so much better than us because you're a member of Congress. And dadgummit, you've met members of Congress. I'd rather have my dogs at my dinner table than some of the members of Congress.
Do you think that it is curious that sometime, I think, during the transition, Elon Musk, who I like very much because he's kind of like you. He tells you what he really thinks. And he's a genius. And he didn't just buy Twitter and turn it into X. He bought Twitter, turned it into X, and he made public all the files that showed that our U.S. intelligence agencies had worked with executives of Twitter to censor people who questioned the election or questioned the effectiveness or safety of COVID-19 vaccinations, or questioned Hunter Biden's laptop, or supported Donald Trump. I mean, he made all of that public. He proved it was true, putting a big target on his back. Immediately facing 9 federal investigations by the Biden administration because he stands up for free speech. Ultimately, post-Butler, pre-Butler, I guess, he supported and I think played a key role in bringing young people and other libertarian types into the winning Trump coalition. But he has... I wish he would make a cell phone, by the way. I think that would be truly great. But he was able to find millions, not millions, not billions, not trillions, but trillions of dollars of waste, fraud, and corruption in American spending. Are we ever going to find that and get it out?
Probably not, because as he told me, I sat across the table from him at a meeting, and I asked him. I said, are politicians getting rich off this? And he described a very circuitous route from that money, your tax dollars. And the way it works real fast, these so-called non-government organizations, NGOs, that I don't know why they don't call them all government organization, because funded by your tax dollars. What happens is some billionaire will put $1 million in a fund, and they'll call it, Feed the Children or that's not the name, but what, you get it, some beautiful free-flowing name that everybody thinks, oh, that's a great organization. And they put $1 million, which to them is just pennies out of their ashtray in their car. And then an unelected bureaucrat in Washington, D.C. will see that and say, well, they got $1 million. Let's give them some money, and literally trillions of dollars. And what happens to that money? It flows right back to Washington, and it flows back in two ways. Dark money, which means it goes, these campaigns, yeah. You've been involved. You see the last week before the big election, and some group brings out your girlfriend in second grade and says you took her ponytail and stuck it in inkwell.
Yeah.
And then you can't respond to it, and it has a name like the Freedom Fund or something.
Yeah. Well,
and then.
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah, there's one other way, and one other way it flows right back into politicians' pockets. And he said it is flowing right back into members of Congress's pockets.
It is amazing. I pointed out Elon Musk, I think, said that people would be shocked if they realized how much of the money that was allotted to Ukraine ended up in the pockets of American politicians.
Yes, sir.
And I assume that there are offshore bank accounts and so on.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
We need to ferret this out. We need to stop the insider trading. We also have to stop the kickback scheme. The war in Ukraine, I'm opposed to this war. I think the premise for the war, we can talk about it on the other side, but I agree with you, and I think much of that money went to American defense contractors who are big donors to the politicians who passed it.
Yes, sir. And these war pimps, as I call them, at the Pentagon and those in Washington, all they're voting for, Mr. Stone, is to advance their portfolios. They don't give a dadgum about your kids or my daughter, who's 18. They wouldn't be happy until they send her off to this war. And I'll guarantee you 85% of these war pimps, as I call them, couldn't find Ukraine on the globe.
All right. When we come back with more of Tim Burchett, I'm going to ask him about the handling of the Jeffrey Epstein issue, among other things, but we'll be right back.
The Roger Stone Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Roger Stone Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And we're back on the Roger Stone Show. We're talking to one of my favorite members of Congress, Tim Burchett. Tim is a straight talker from Tennessee. And I'm going to switch gears here on you a little bit, Tim, because I've changed my mind. I recently saw you talking to Tucker Carlson, a great friend of mine, about these massive underwater UFOs that have been credibly reported. It seems to me that the government, particularly the Congress, brings up UFOs whenever there's some other major scandal they're trying to distract people from. But can you speak to these extraordinary but no longer implausible claims?
Yes, sir. This was at somebody who formerly was at some of the highest ranks in the Navy, and they came to see me about it. They'd heard me question in committee about what the U.S. government claims they don't exist, that UFOs do not exist, yet they're spending tens of millions of dollars on something in every alphabet agency, FBI, CIA. They all have a wing, or they're researching something that's about the unknown, the UFOs or UAPs. So he's describing to me these there's 5 or 6 deep water areas of the ocean that go literally over a mile deep that we just barely can understand what's down there, and we know more about the surface of the moon than we do these areas of the ocean. And ocean carries, I think, water. There's over 75% of the world is covered in water. And he said that they've tracked things as big as a football field doing 200 miles an hour. And, that's no fish that does that. Yeah. That is something. And that's not me telling, this isn't some wild tale. I'm out here smoking a pound of weed and drinking a 12-pack of PBR around a campfire, telling some wild story and seeing some lights. This is a man who is at the highest level and has some documentation on some of this stuff. But this thing was and our capabilities are in the high 30 miles per hour, probably, of something that'll travel underwater. You can shoot a bullet from one end of a 30-foot pool if you're underwater, and it'll literally stop before it gets to you. So, there's a whole area of friction. It's entirely engulfing that when you're under the water, and it's just impossible for us to travel at these speeds. And I was talking to one of our who formerly was one of our top pilots in the world, and he told me that he was flying and this thing flew within 14 feet of his canopy. He didn't say 15 feet. He didn't say 10 feet. He said 14 feet. Our movies try to make our pilots out to be, these wild, muscle-bound, knuckleheads. And the reality is they're more egghead than musclehead. They're flying a multi-million-dollar piece of apparatus, and their training involves millions of dollars. So it's a reality, and there's something. I remember the last thing he told me before we left my office. He looked at me. He went out the side door. I'll never forget this, and he said, "Tim, they're real." And that's the last thing he told me.
Jackie Gleason, the late comedian, always had an avid interest in UFOs. His widow told me a story in which Jackie, who was a great, great friend of Richard Nixon, was visiting Gleason in Miami. And I think they got bombed. And Gleason asked the president about UFOs, and it is alleged that the president took Jackie to a secret government facility in Homestead, Florida, where he actually showed him actual space aliens and pieces of various craft that had been captured and so on. I believe that story is true. So I like Tucker Carlson. There's something going on in terms of UFOs. They're just not telling us the truth. But telling us truth today has been Tim Burchett, one of my favorite members of Congress, a rock-ribbed conservative, fighter for the taxpayers, truth teller, and a man who brings a country, more rural aspect to things than I, as a dazzling urbanite, see. Thank you, Tim. God bless you for joining us.
The Roger Stone Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Roger Stone Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the Roger Stone Show. Joining me now is Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna. To my surprise and delight, Anna Paulina Luna has turned out to be one of the hardest working, one of the most courageous, and one of the most principled conservatives in Congress. She's definitely not the go along to get along type. If you look at the heart of virtually every crucial issue in this country, she's in the fight. Frankly, when President Trump issued his executive order, ordering that all documents controlled by the National Archives pertaining to the assassination of President John F. Kennedy, Senator Robert F. Kennedy of New York, and Dr. Martin Luther King be released, whoever drafted that order didn't recognize that were many, many documents still in the hands of institutions who had never turned them over to the National Archive for good reasons, such as the Central Intelligence Agency, the FBI, certain sections of Defense Intelligence, the IRS, and so on. Therefore, we didn't get a full record. And Anna Paulina Luna realized that. She's been dogged in getting the CIA to turn over all kinds of important things that they had forgotten to give us. The records of George Joanides, who I believe, as do many other JFK researchers, was Oswald's handler. But more recently, the travel records of a notorious Central Intelligence Agency operative, Bill Harvey. We would never have learned any of these additional connections of the CIA to the murder of John F. Kennedy, not that they acted alone, if it weren't for the leadership and the persistence of Anna Paulina Luna. So welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me back on, Roger. Very happy to be here today.
These most recent revelations about Bill Harvey, as well as the stuff you ferreted out about Joe Ioannidis, they clearly established the agency's involvement in the murder of Kennedy.
Oh, most certainly. In fact, if you were to even make that statement just a year ago, Roger, so many people would say, oh, that's just a conspiracy theory. But without a doubt, because of the really Radcliffe's ability and decision to release these files, at our request, we do now have proof that not only did the CIA, again, undermine, block, and then also to lie to Congress, but they did have knowledge. They were involved in observation of Oswald. And in my opinion, there's a lot of people who think that with these recent revelations regarding Bill Harvey, as you know, Roger, he ran the assassination program for the CIA, but now we know that someone at the FAA had authorized him under false name to come back to the United States. And a lot of people are saying, okay, so where was he on the day of Kennedy's assassination? So without a doubt, there's proof now, and you can see the mosaic for yourself that the CIA did have a hand in this. And it's crazy to say because, again, if you said this a year ago, people would call you a conspiracy theorist, but now we have the evidence.
Yeah, there's no question about it. I obviously, based on my own research and activity in the researcher community, believe that there is a grand conspiracy that involves the CIA, organized crime, big Texas oil, certainly the banking interests, but the man himself at the helm, the man with the most to gain, Lyndon Baines Johnson, who is staring into the abyss. He's the target of two massive corruption scandals, the two biggest corruption scandals of the decades, the Billy Sal Estes case and the Bobby Baker case. Johnson knows he's going to be dropped from the 64 ticket. He knows that he's going to face federal indictment, so he lures John F. Kennedy to Dallas. Johnson has been the paymaster for the CIA. As the Senate Majority Leader, he points himself to the Senate Committee on Defense Appropriations, specifically the subcommittee where the CIA's black box budget is prepared, and he's been taking care of the CIA. He's obviously the water boy for the Texas oil interests who Kennedy wants to repeal the oil depletion allowance, which would cost them millions. Johnson says he will not allow that to happen. Just gave you Big Oil's motive to get rid of John F. Kennedy. Unique relationship with organized crime. Johnson is being paid by Santo Traficante, by Carlos Marcello, to hide the illegal gambling operations in Houston and Dallas and San Antonio. So I think it is a broader conspiracy. You have established the most important part, which is our own intelligence agencies' involvement. I want to talk to you about Ukraine. This is obviously a war that all Americans would like to end. I believe that the narrative given to us by the Biden administration as to why we're in this war is false. This is not about the territorial ambitions of Vladimir Putin so much it is about the fact that this country signed two agreements, the Budapest Accords and the Budapest Memorandum and the Minsk Accords, in which we agreed in return for the Russians allowing the reunification of East and West Germany, we agreed not to push Ukraine into NATO, which is to say not to mount NATO missiles on the ground in Ukraine aimed at Russia, also not to have bioweapons labs targeting Russia. And this push by the Biden administration to push them into NATO, which means drop the missiles into the silos that are already built, is a violation of that. That's what I think this war is about. Putin made it very clear that that was his line in the sand. But this idea that he wants to gobble up all of Ukraine, all of France, all of Germany, all of Poland, this is a joke. A joke.
Well, I think it's a lot deeper than that too, though, Stone. You know, what's been interesting, and even just researching some of the JFK stuff and seeing how JFK even had such a good relationship, back channel conversations with the Russian government, did not want war, was doing everything that he could to really tone down the whole idea of this Cold War going hot. And then you look at what happened, really, I think even predating the Biden administration's perspective on Ukraine with what happened with Russiagate. You, of all people, were subject, to all of that stuff. And what I will say is that it seems as though the Biden administration, we saw in our own investigations when we were in oversight looking at the transaction records, all of the money coming out of Ukraine going right into Hunter Biden and the Biden's personal bank accounts. There was a lot there. But it seems also, too, that they were using foreign policy to double down on what they really did to President Trump in 2016. And then, as you know, Tulsi recently released all the files that proves that Russiagate was a complete hoax, right? So you had George W. Bush, you had Bill Clinton, which, to be clear, I'm not really a fan of either president's foreign policies on certain things. But both of those presidents at least had a good open dialogue with the Russian government. And then all of a sudden, we're supposed to now hate Russia. Look, I'm first and foremost worried about the American people, and what I can tell you is that war is not good for us, and it's not good for our economy, especially because we have to we are spending so much money in regards to helping Ukraine right now. Which, to be clear, Roger, I've never voted for Ukraine munitions, and I will continue to vote against any legislation that has that in it. But I think that President Trump's perspective on this is one of the best perspectives that you can have, which is that we need peace. And what I noticed, and part of the reason why I've been so vocal about saying, like, hey, hold on, let's actually look at the real reason as to why this is happening here right now. You have so many members of Congress that, part of our job, especially if you're like me and on foreign affairs, is we're supposed to be engaging in the diplomatic conversations, and we should be advocating for America's interests, which in my opinion, in this case, would be peace. But so many members of Congress, specifically the members that have been controlled and really funded by the military-industrial complex, are the first ones out there to go take photos with Zelensky saying we have to maintain this war. We cannot allow Russia to win. Well, first and foremost, how could you ever be expected to be unbiased in your opinion and perspective when you're taking that money that's helping to really tailor your opinion on the matter, first of all? Second of all, the administration's made their position very clear that they want to seek peace. You just had Melania Trump announce recently that she was able to work with not just the Russian government, but the Ukrainian government to reunite 8 children with their families. So there's clearly a want and a need here to pursue trade over war at any cost. And so what I'm doing now, and I think it's not just going to be me, it's going to be a few other members of Congress, is I'm going to, for the first time since the 90s, be leading a congressional delegation to meet with the Russian parliament, the Duma. And so that date will be announced shortly. And then I'm also meeting with the special envoy to the president of Russia actually later on this month. And that is our goal and objective for these talks. Now, what's also been interesting is that, it was NATO and the British government that actually over 2 years ago tried to, and were effective at pressuring Zelensky into not taking a peace deal with Russia. And so my question would be is why is it that the American people, and look, there's definitely evidence of war fatigue, right? Like over 70% of Americans want there to be peace talks and negotiations. But you didn't have that out of Congress, and you definitely didn't have that out of the last administration. So I'm trying to back the president's position on this. I hope and I think that given his track record with ending 8 wars that had sometimes gone on for decades, I do believe that he has the ear and the respect of both Zelensky and Putin. And I do think that he's probably the one person in the world that can actually get this done. And so I'm going to do everything in my legislative power as a member of Congress and as a member of Foreign Affairs to back the president's position on that.
Yeah, this idea that he was somehow compromised by the Russians is so laughable. Who was it as president who gave the Ukrainians Javelin missiles? Wasn't Barack Obama? He gave them blankets. Donald Trump armed them to the teeth. We fulfilled our NATO obligations to the Ukrainians, but we are to the point where I doubt that they can quote unquote win. I'm absolutely in agreement with you. We need to stop the killing above all else. This has been unnecessary. Putin is a tough customer. No one loves Vladimir Putin. He's a brutal dictator, but he's also very smart, and I think he's very pragmatic. And you're right, he respects Donald Trump. And Donald Trump's unpredictability bothers Vladimir Putin, and that's a good thing. That's a great quality to have in a leader. this cannot continue to drag on. The president deserves this Nobel Peace Prize. We can go through that list when we come back, but this is a guy's on a peacemaking spree that is extraordinary with the new announcements regarding Gaza, the ceasefire between Israel and Iran, the settling of the hostilities between India and Pakistan, between Azerbaijan and their adversaries, the Congo and Rwanda. I mean, he really does deserve the Nobel Peace Prize. I don't think these snotty, elitist Norwegian academics who control this are going to see it our way. They gave Barack Obama a Nobel Peace Prize, and his only accomplishment was killing more human beings with drones than any president in U.S. history. We'll be right back with Anna Paulina Luna right here in The Roger Stone Show.
The Roger Stone Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Roger Stone Show, entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And we're back with the indefatigable Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna, a true firebrand, a great American patriot. Congresswoman, my congressman, Jared Moskowitz, has made over $3 million, I think I'm reading this correct, in the stock market since becoming a member of Congress in a series of reported trades that all seem to surround defense stocks. We know that Nancy Pelosi is now worth, I believe, $153 million, and I would have thought she was first, but Tim Burchett actually told me she was 11th out of the top 10 members of Congress who profiteered through essentially insider trading. When are we going to stop this nonsense?
Oh, my gosh. I'm so glad that you're asking about the insider trading. So you know that actually how this conversation all came up is that Tim and I were sitting on the steps of the Capitol, and we had actually seen a couple of posts come out from that site, Unusual Whales. And Tim actually has a bill to actually ban insider trading. And so I was like, you know what? Screw this. We're not going to wait for them to actually bring this to the floor because it's never going to happen. So I actually filed something called a special rule to call up his bill. And what that means is we're going to have to go collect signatures for that discharge petition. But I'm planning on doing it as soon as we get back because it's gotten so bad on both sides where you have people, and I don't really care who it is, if they own stocks and they're in Congress right now and they're advocating or they're, aware of certain things coming out, that's insider trading. Most people would go to jail over that. And it's terrible because it's happening every single day. And so we're actually bringing forward this bill. There's actually a version of it that is bipartisan and has, I think it's close to 60-something members sponsoring it. It's the last time I checked. And so whenever we're being told by leadership that, and we have been told by leadership that, we're trying to force a bad vote and that we're going to be responsible for the Republicans losing the midterm, I actually countered and said, actually, this is one of the most bipartisan and most popular things in the country right now. And if you're not seeing that the American people distrust government, they distrust Congress, they can't stand us because of stuff like this, then you're not seeing the writing on the wall. And so, look, Roger, I'm not planning on being in Congress forever. I don't own stocks, but what I can tell you is I know for a fact that these people are getting wealthy off of this policy, off of being able to have access to insider information before things happen, and it's not right. And so part of my goal and objective is to go after that government corruption, and so I'm going to try to force the vote.
I think that's very wise. This is an absurdity. Mickey Sherrill, Democrat congresswoman running for governor in New Jersey, this is a few days, triples her net worth in one trade. She makes a $7 million trade. And then when she's asked about it in the debate, she says she can't remember whether she did it or not.
Yeah, it's completely wrong. And it's crazy too, Roger, because they gaslight us. They say, we'll bring it to committee or we'll do this. I told them, I said, I'm going to force it at the end of the month. And then obviously the government shutdown happened and we haven't been back. But as soon as we get back, if I don't if I no kidding, don't see a notice on the calendar to mark up our bill, then I am calling up that. And I already filed the rule for it and everything. So it's all parliamentary procedure to say I'm going to be forcing the vote.
You go, girl.
Thanks, Roger.
I love it. It needs to be done. The other thing the other great reform we need to do is we need to make it so that people who are in the government health areas like Dr. Anthony Fauci can't advocate for a product, a vaccination, or a drug in which he and his wife own enormous interests and make millions of dollars. That should be quite illegal.
Yeah.
But believe it or not, it is not. So Fauci and his wife, both high-level officials at the FDA and the other parts of the health apparatus, are using their power to advocate for drugs that they own an interest in, profiteering millions on the misery and death of others. It's horrific.
You know, it's funny, Rogers. I actually have some of my staff is joking. They're like, "Why do you have to be so principled?" And I was like, "Well, I'm trying to get us all into heaven." So
there you go. All right, Anna Paulina Luna, thank you so much for joining us. God bless you. Keep up the good fight.
Thank you.
The Roger Stone Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Roger Stone Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the Roger Stone Show. I've written 2 books on President Richard Nixon, Nixon's Secrets, which tells you the real story of Watergate, which was essentially a CIA takedown of a very popular president, and at a time when we had a monolithic media that wanted him out, like Trump. He wanted to take power away from the unelected bureaucrats in the deep state, and they took him out in a bloodless coup, unlike the way they took JFK out. But I always said that I thought President Nixon's single greatest mistake was taking America off the gold standard in 1971. It was the beginning of our dollar being backed by nothing. Previously, the dollar was theoretically backed by a gold reserve. It was his biggest mistake. He was talked into it over the objections of his chief economic advisor, Dr. Arthur Burns, by Governor John Connally. I think it is the beginning of the downward spiral in America's financial conditions. The man joining me now agrees with that and more. Paul Stone is an entrepreneur, a longtime advocate, as I have, as a Jack Kemp Republican, as a Ron Paul Republican, an advocate for gold. He's written a terrific new book, 1971, that talks not just about the mistakes of the past, but the possibilities for the future. And he joins us now. Paul Stone, welcome.
Roger Stone, great to be back with you, sir.
So we are the Rolling Stones, but we're not related.
Yes.
But we do. Our political views are pretty close together. Paul argues passionately in this book for shrinking centralized government, restoring power to local communities. But he really gets down to the importance of monetary policy failure, societal unrest it has caused, and the economic pain that's been felt by millions of Americans, all based on this horrific decision in 1971 by my favorite president. Paul?
Mm. Yes, the book does tackle things at the source. It goes back to the source, and everyone listening could say, "Oh, how could it be that impactful?" I mean, we haven't had anything back in our dollar for 54 years. Yeah, look around. That's what you're looking at today. A humongous financial disreality, pressure on 70% of our people. They have no peace of mind. They're agitated, pissed off, angry, scared. The youth have no vision about how their future is going to go. They can't even get a great job once they come out of college, and they were told to go to college so they could get a great job, which might have some earnings that would overwhelm their bills. I'm telling you right now, the oracle of issues and problems that we cannot solve comes from D.C. Stop putting your faith there that D.C. will ever fix this. And that's what the book's about. The war on drugs, the breakdown of the American family, how the government got so big and stupid, and the eventual economic collapse that the math story says is as guaranteed as none of us ever do get out of here alive. It's as guaranteed as the sun coming up tomorrow. Mathematically, the dollar has lost 97% of what it was since Nixon did what he did.
That's that's a very bleak, but I think realistic prospect. I mean, we go deeper and deeper in debt. We print more and more money like it's going out of style. I have been a small investor in gold. You've been a long time advocate for gold. what role does gold play in America's future? And then let's shift over and talk about cryptocurrency. I mean, how do we get out of this mess?
Sure. So gold plays as much of a role in our financial reality as chicken is involved in chicken dinner. You can't have a chicken dinner without chicken. And none of us are going to buy a 3D printer, get some protein goop, print a chicken breast, and throw it on the grill and eat that. Might try it once because it's pretty cool, but I'm not going to live that way. So when we look at this reality, I always been comparing it lately, Roger, to cotton candy. Because to me, it's the closest thing that seems to come like it's made out of air, right? But cotton candy's made from sugar. Someone had to farm the sugar. Someone had to eat and live while the sugar cane was growing. And then they had to harvest it. And they had to expend some diesel to get it to wherever the factory is to turn raw sugar into little packets that some guy or gal went down to and bought at a store and then took the machine they bought to make cotton candy to the fair and charge it with electricity and spin up the machine and spin up the sugar and spin up cotton candy. Money can come out of thin air. So let's stop saying we're printing money like it's going out of style, and let's stop calling it debt because it's theft. If I borrowed $1,000 from you, Roger, you might say, hey, well, what's the deal? You know, what's going on? You need $1,000. You'd look at my ability to repay you, and this is the most important fact. The money that I'm borrowing from you already exists in the world. You have the $1,000 I would borrow. So this is not debt. Please, let's start to engineer a new consciousness. That's what the book does. Stop calling it debt. Everyone listening today, it's not debt, it's theft. Because when the government creates money with Microsoft Excel, it wasn't money that was already in existence. We own 90-something% of this, what's being called debt. It's theft, meaning they're stealing from the years down the road, from the year 3000, and bringing those future dollars into 1971. And so now we're getting very close with the dollar only being worth 3 cents to the fact where the year they're going to go steal dollars from is this year. So that calamity causes a collapse of everything mathematically supported by the dollar itself. The salaries, the diesel truck drivers, the whole financial world, airline tickets, all of it is supported by someone getting paid in dollars to do their job. And when that doesn't work anymore, then you won't have anything that you're used to having anymore. And that's the lunacy of central governments around the world. They're all printing, and Nixon just kicked off the party covering up a lie.
Extraordinary. So here's what I don't understand. We criticize our own monetary system because today the dollar is backed up by nothing. It's backed up by the full faith and credit of the United States, which is to say a promise, I guess. But it's not
to print more.
Right. It's not backed by a hard commodity like gold or silver or even a basket of commodities. It's backed on nothing. Okay. But cryptocurrency, which is an alternative monetary system, on which people are making enormous amounts of money, this cryptocurrency seems also to me to be based on air, based on nothingness. It's not backed by anything. Yet many people who criticize our current monetary system are very enthusiastic about the cryptocurrency system. How should I be thinking about this?
It's beautiful. And I love you so much because you just bring up such great questions. You're such a deep thinker, and you pay attention like a rabid animal. Like you are just everywhere. You have your finger on the pulse of so many things that'd be hard to keep track of. So you're a special human. When you think of necessity is the mother of all invention, right? If you take Mondami, for example, the guy running for mayor of New York City, right? And you take him back to the 1980s and you put a camera and a mic in front of him, who wants to hear what he has to say? Who wants to hear a pitch about handouts? And let's take from companies and, grocery stores and give it out to people. Who would even want to hear that message? No one. So what's been changing, right? We're 10 generations away now from 1776. This is the consciousness to wake up to. So if you got a bunch of people, we're very far away from the reality that formed the country, the principles, the ethics, the sacrifices that made this earthen section of the planet the United States of America. The first time ever in human history there was a country where you could go and set up shop and there wasn't a bunch of morons telling you how to live or taxing you to death on every move you make. So when we look at cryptocurrency, people must be creating these because they're so distrusting of this silly word that someone gave, fake money, fiat currency. It's fake. Money was always gold and silver, or it always had something to do with the money until 1971, the first time in human existence that money was just made in Microsoft Excel, essentially. I know they didn't have that back then, but they just breathed it into life. But it's not life. It's created a falsehood. Crypto is an attempt to have money outside of government influence, where the source of that crypto is not from DC or London or I guess it's Brussels, the central financial epicenter of the Eurozone. It does nothing. It's not from Tokyo. It's not from Beijing. It's not from some banana republic. It's a currency that comes free and clear of the stupidity of central governments. I mean, that's what they've proven. Who's throwing a fair for central governments once or twice a year or ever? Who is ever throwing a fair for a parade for how well their government is dealing with the country's needs? There's not one. So let's articulate that. If these people have put themselves in the life management business and they suck at it, they're terrible. We have to take our own power back. But we could have a currency, a cryptocurrency that used gold. And many have made an attempt at doing something like that. They just haven't made the right attempt yet.
That's an intriguing idea. It seems to me it would do extremely well. Of course, I was very disturbed, by the way. I don't know if you saw this, but somebody shorted the stock in the crypto company that President Trump and his family are associated with prior to the president's announcement of the 100% tariff on China. And they made a $198 million gain. I find that really disturbing because what it means is that somebody in this chain of process, some insider saw an opportunity and made a killing. This reminds me of the insider trading that we let members of Congress do. This is insanity. They're either the shrewdest investors I've ever met, or they're operating on the basis of insider trading. My congressman makes a $3 million gain on defense contract stocks. When he's asked about it, he says, all my investment decisions are made by a third party. Really? Then that guy's a genius, because no one else saw these things coming. It's one of the great frauds of all time, and still we don't do anything about it.
That's what we need, though, Roger. We need an education. The book isn't an economics book, so if anyone's already checked out going, another econ book, it is absolutely not. It covers racism today, so it dances between the raindrops on the touchiest subject, perhaps, in our lifetime. It talks about the collapse of global finances. It explains that the war on drugs should have never been created. The need for drugs on that scale should have never happened, and never happened before in human history. Plus, the war was fought in the wrong country. Right? Nancy Reagan, just say no. Just say what? This isn't people partying. This is people anesthetizing themselves every day because they can't stand the stress. They can't figure out what the stress is coming from. And now you have 96% of Gen Zers reporting some form of mental health challenges. Now, obviously, let's say half of that isn't so bad, but 96% and half of them are they're really struggling. Where's that coming from? It's coming from like Tiger Woods said, he never hit a golf shot before he saw where the ball was going to land before he swung. It's all about vision, right? If a generation now in the greatest country on earth can't foresee themselves owning the dirt they're sleeping over, that vision isn't there, then they aren't going to try. They're going to feel suffocated and choked out. Their future is going to look very bleak, and they're going to turn to trying to find a way to enjoy themselves here, and drugs can have some benefits for that.
Yeah, there's
down to the American family as well.
No, there's no question.
All covered in the book.
No, we are bathing in a veritable tide of psychotropic drugs. We are the most drugged up society, and this includes
in
young
all
people.
Of human history.
So people are trying to get away from the reality, because the reality is so very bleak as we fight a machine, a bipartisan, globalist controlling machine of elites, of wealthy elites seeking to control our lives while they crush our freedoms and our opportunities. It's precisely the great struggle going on in this country. They didn't count on one thing: the election of one Donald J. Trump, a very stubborn, obstinate, hardworking and determined American who doesn't want to see the globalists take over the world and crush out our American freedoms, who believes in American exceptionalism and American excellence and American virtue. They didn't expect this improbable billionaire from New York who never was elected to anything to come out of nowhere and storm to the presidency in 2016. Then they tried to get rid of him illegally. That didn't work. And now he's really ruined their day, making the greatest single political comeback in American history. And America could conceivably be on the cusp of a golden age, a new age of peace and prosperity, security, justice, and law and order. There's one man that can do that. Right now he has the power to do it. He has to maintain the power to do it. That's my friend Donald J. Trump. We'll talk about this and other things with my good friend Paul Stone, no relation, author of this great book, 1971. That's the title of the book, 1971. You can grab it on Amazon. I highly recommend it to you. But I'm Roger Stone. We'll be right back.
The Roger Stone Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. Roger Stone Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back. We're talking to Paul Stone. He is an entrepreneur, like me, a gold bug. He is a pro-economic growth, I would say, free thinker. He's written a terrific book about how Richard Nixon's horrific decision to take America off the gold standard, close the gold window, is caused waves from which we are still suffering. And we were talking about crypto, which I just find very, very intriguing. This is, you see huge fortunes being spun out of seemingly nothing. I don't quite understand it. What am I missing here?
Well, you know, like Windows 95 comes out, right? And you look at where that's today. So, wow, it took a while. And, you know, we're definitely living in a very fast-paced, distracted world where we cannot stop and be grounded very much to look around and see the impact of things. AI, to me, is absolutely ridiculous. I don't care how many features and benefits it has these days. It will absolutely replace 30, 40, 50% of all automated kind of routine jobs around the world over the next few years.
Yes.
Because like every time there's a recession, corporations have shed workforce, right? And then they don't bring a lot of those people back because they go to automation during the PR coverage they get by letting go of the workers during the recession. So if you look at true unemployment today, it's 27%. People can go, oh, that's just extreme. No, it's just the way we counted unemployment for hundreds of years. It's not an antiquated way to count unemployment. It's just the damn truth. Inflation since the year 2000 is truly 8%. So when we look at the reason for crypto, it probably does lead to, I don't know, a universal system of doing business outside of government currency. And eventually there'll be a massive challenge for the government against cryptocurrency, I think, probably in the next 5 years or so, where the world says, look, what business is it of yours, what I do in a currency you didn't issue?
Yes.
No, like New York wants to tax people for driving to work in this city. This is absolute lunacy. I'm not property of the state. Neither is anyone listening. We weren't born to create commerce. The government could tax in every way it could possibly think up ways to do it.
I'm in agreement. As you know, the Biden administration was extremely hostile to cryptocurrency as a concept. They kept insisting that crypto was a security. If you were selling it, you were doing so without a securities license. They would send you to prison. They were in an operation called 2.0. They went all out to try to destroy crypto, and many of the entrepreneurs who began this vibrant new alternative monetary system. The Trump administration has embraced crypto, but it is still very much, to me, seems to be the wild, wild west. I still think some commodity-backed crypto instrument would be wildly, wildly successful. But I give the president credit for having a big picture view of this. The reason Biden and the political establishment, both parties, hate crypto is because they don't control it. And they have to have control. Yeah. It's all about control.
Yeah, They criminalized it. They control it. And that's another thing the book will point out. It makes so damn clear. I mean, let's look at the decisions. I know we don't have much time, but the decisions the government has made. Where would you check a box that it worked wonderfully? Now compare that ecosystem versus Mother Nature herself. Look outside your window. Where's the struggle? Is the grass struggling to grow? Are the birds worried about the worm population in the ground? Are they upset? Are they freaking out? Are they changing their migration patterns, right? Because they're just nervous and sketched out and they forgot where they used to go for thousands of years when they migrated? You know, what's going on outside the window? Nothing. It's just in the human world there's struggle. Why is there so much struggle since 1971? Why is 94% of our youngsters dealing with mental health issues and autism and drugs and broken families and incomes that don't get above their bills? You know, on the gold standard, our earnings used to outgrow our bills.
All right, we have to leave it there. I want to thank our guest, Paul Stone. I urge you to check out his book, 1971. Meanwhile, thanks for joining us today on The Roger Stone Show. God bless you and Godspeed.
Thanks for listening to The Roger Stone Show. You can hear The Roger Stone Show Sunday afternoons at 3. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder,
What the heck is going on here?
The following is a paid political announcement.
Lifelong Democrat Diana Florence served for 25 years as a Manhattan prosecutor under DA Robert Morgenthau. She put criminals away, stood up for victims, and protected our streets. Now, Diana is challenging failed Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg as an independent because it's time for a DA who fights for our families, not criminals. That's why Diana has won the support of organized labor like the steamfitters, plumbers, and ironworkers, everyday New Yorkers who want a DA they can trust. Manhattan needs a DA who will do the job, prosecute crime. That's Diana Florence. Under Alvin Bragg, crime is up and prosecutions are down. Bragg doesn't prosecute crime. He plays partisan politics. Bragg failed to protect women and failed to protect workers. As a prosecutor, Diana Florence won groundbreaking convictions, fighting against corruption, domestic violence, wage left, and daily working conditions. She's always been a partner of unions, community groups, and to cops like us. For Manhattan District Attorney, vote for Diana Florence. Diana4DA.com. Paid for by Diana for Manhattan DA.